Okay, guys, today we're going to talk about ordering rational and irrational numbers. And this is a very difficult concept. This is a concept that students have, over my 13 years of teaching, have definitely struggled with. If you look at my notes, there's a strategy 1 and a strategy 2. Strategy 1 is for the kids that, without a shadow of a doubt, understand the concept of negative and positive numbers. They get integers completely. They totally understand that the bigger the negative is, the smaller the number actually is. And from that point forward, it's pretty simple for them to put them in order. That does not work for most of my kids. I'd say 90%. So what I recommend when you're trying to put rational and irrational numbers in order, say from least to greatest or from greatest to least, is you use my second strategy, which involves the number line. Okay? So with the number line, or whatever strategy you're going to use, the first thing you're going to have to do is turn this irrational number and these three rational numbers into decimals. So square root of 30 as a decimal is 5.47, okay? 5.47, that's correct. Okay, so the second one, negative 2/3, is going to be negative 0.66 repeating. If you notice, I'm going to the hundredths place on all of these numbers. My spiel, and one of the things that I like to have you guys do always, and you hear me talk about it all the time in class, is relate any decimal to money. That's the math that you have the most experience with. That's the math that you have the easiest time dealing with, or it's the easiest math to understand for you guys. So turn everything into money. It gives you a better idea, a better grasp of the value of the number. So let's see here. Moving on, next number, the 300%. You can see I have the two little humps underneath the 2 zeros. That's the reason we're moving the decimal twice, is because when you're turning a percent to a decimal, you're actually dividing by 100, because percents are out of 100. So you move the decimal back for each zero, basically, and that's going to be 3.00. Again, I'm writing it as money. The last one is already a decimal, so it's negative $66.66. And that is a repeater, just in case we need that. So at this point, what I do is, you know that this side of the number line is the negatives, and this side of the number lines is the positives. Make sure we can see everything. Yep. So on the negative side, obviously we're going to have the negative. So that would be negative 0.66 repeating and negative 66.66 repeating. On the positive side, we're going to have 3.0, and then we're going to have 5.47. So again, if I'm looking at this as money, let's start on the easy side first, the positive side. When I say use a number line, I am not asking you to put 1, 2, 3, 4, number all the way to 6 and put 3.0 and 5.47 in its correct location. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying to use the number line as a guide so you can know where to put these numbers with respect to 0. So for example, if I'm on the positive side and I'm leaving 0, what number am I going to run into first, the 3 or the 5.47? Well, I would go 0, 1, 2, and then I would run into 3. And I'm going to put the decimal form on top, and I'm going to put the original form on bottom. After 3.0, the next number I'm going to run into is 5.47. And that takes care of my positive side. Now, of course, there'll be some questions where they're all positive. Those will be much easier than the ones that involve negatives. Some of them will have a couple negatives and a couple positives, and some of them will be all negatives. But this strategy will work with any type of ordering problem. If they're all positive, then least to greatest will be left to right. If they're all negative, least to greatest will still be left to right. And I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So now let's go to the negative side. So ask yourself, as you're leaving 0, what number are you going to run into first? 66 cents, negative 66 cents, or negative 66.66 cents? And the answer to that, is, of course, is going to be the 66 cents. So that would be negative 0.66 cents. And then we would run into the negative $66.66. So of course this is not accurate. $66 would be way out there. 66 cents would be right next to the 0. That's probably where 3 and the 5.47 would go. But again, that's not the point. The point is not to put these numbers in the correct location on the number line. It's just to use the number line as a guide to put these things in order with respect to 0. So once you have them on the number line, you want to write the original form up there, because of course the problem's not going to ask for it in decimal form, or they're not going to turn them into decimals just to make life easier for you. So I'll put the decimal form on top, and then on bottom I put the original form of the number. So negative 66.66 was exactly that. It was already a decimal. 66 cents was actually negative 66 cents was actually negative 2/3. $3 came from 300%. And then the $5.47 or $5.47 came from square root of 30. So now we've got them all in order. So now you just look at the question. If it wants it least to greatest, then that's going to be left to right. The way I remember it is the L's are always together. The L's are always together. So right here. The L's are always together. So least to greatest, you write it out left to right. So that would be, that's ugly. So that would be negative 66.66. That would be negative 2/3. And that would be 300%. And that would be square root of 30. So that would be least to greatest. You would write them out left to right. The L's go together, and there they are. A lot of the time, it only takes the first or second one, and you'll have the answer correct. Now, if for some reason they ask you for greatest to least, then you just do right to left. And, of course, that would be the other one. So now it would be going from right to left. So that would be square root of 30. That would be 300%. That would be negative 2/3, and that would be negative 66.66 repeating. So again, as long as you can turn all of these into decimals, you can put them in the correct location with respect to 0, leaving 0 for the positive and the negative side. Put the decimal form on top, the original form on bottom. Once you get to this point here, all you need to know is if they want least to greatest or greatest to least. If they want least to greatest, you write it out left to right. If they want greatest to least, you write them out right to left. And the way I always remembered it is the L's went together. So that's my strategy for ordering rational numbers. Use the number line, turn them all into decimals, put your positives on your positive side, your negative on your negative side, and then just ask yourself, as you're leaving 0, what's the first number I'm going to run into? 3 first, then 5.47. Then on the negative side, as I'm leaving 0, what am I going to run into first? 66 cents and then $66.66. Put the original form down here, least to greatest, left to right, greatest to least, right to left. Remember, the L's, if you can see that, the L's stay together. And that is ordering rational numbers.